psychiatrists, therapists, and people in those academic fields. And what they're doing, they're studying the effects on the brain, meditation, mindful living. And they're finding out that there are, without question, definite changes in the brain structure, in the architecture of the chromosomes. Things change. You know, we used to think up into the 1980s, even when I was in graduate school, that the brain is fixed. It cannot be changed. But now they've got this thing called neuroplasticity. Anybody heard of that? Neuroplasticity. You heard about, I mean, this is interesting stuff for people in science. I actually started out as a science kind of person in high school, and I've drifted into other things, but I haven't lost interest. But it's really interesting. It's not like sitting down, meditating, oh, it's a spiritual thing, it's for certain kinds of people. No, they're finding out that mindfulness is for everyone. Mindfulness is for, doesn't matter what your profession. So there are people in the law profession, there are people in the business world, there are people certainly in politics and academics. Actually, in the Swedish Parliament, they practice mindfulness. In the House of Commons and Lords in England, they're starting to practice mindfulness. So we're finding out, and as I said, across the country, and particularly the colleges, universities that are really studying this stuff are Oxford, Cambridge, and Exeter universities in England. It's really big in the boarding schools and schools across the UK. Even the equivalent of the Surgeon General in Scotland said that mindfulness is absolutely fundamentally important to our health and well-being. So what is mindfulness? Mindful living. Well, it is related to meditation, but the thing is, if the Buddha comes up with the idea of mindfulness 2,500 years ago, it's not that the Buddha owns it. The idea of mindfulness is a universal concept. It's just like Newton and Galileo discovered. They discovered gravity. They didn't create gravity. It was already here. It's a universal thing on planet Earth. The same is true of the idea of mindfulness. And so now it's moved its way, as I said, into the secular world. And so you don't have to be religious at all to practice mindfulness. You can be religious. You don't have to be. But what is it? It's a stopping. It's a breathing. It's becoming aware of the circumstances around you. What's going on right now? Where's your mind right now? You know, we're more than our thinking. For a long time in the academic world, for centuries, we've been exercising like one arm, the thinking, the rational, discursive, discriminating, analytical mind, which is important. We needed that mind as we're coming through the evolutionary process. We come out of a cave, and we have to be aware of what's going on, be a little bit paranoid, a little bit anxious, because that saber-toothed tiger might kill us. If we walk out all blissful, everything's fine and beautiful, we'd be dead, and we wouldn't have evolved to where we are now. So we needed that thinking, analytical mind, which is important. But there's another arm that we need to exercise, and that's the arm of awareness. So mindfulness is stopping, being intentionally aware with purpose of what's going on in every moment. In every moment. Because there's no other moment. You hear that all the time, it's kind of cliche. Be in the present moment. Well, there isn't any other moment. The past is gone. Well, you watch Kung Fu Panda, that probably, what does he say? Yesterday's history, tomorrow is mystery. And we have, today is a gift because it's the present. And it's really true. Maybe it's a children's movie, but it's true. We only have this present. Right now, you and I, we're all together here. This is it. This is it right now. We're the present moment. And so if you have a watch on, what time is it? It's time to get out of here, but it's whatever the time is, maybe it's, it doesn't matter. In 5 more minutes, I'll ask what the time is. It's going to be now. The time is always now, as John Kabat-Zinn said, the founder of mindfulness in the contemporary era, is that the time is always now, the present. So what's going on in your minds? It's that awareness. One of the greatest books I read in college, most influential, was by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Everybody know it? If you haven't read it, I don't expect you to have read it now, but in college you have to read the book. Viktor Frankl was in the Nazi concentration camp, and he said, between every stimulus, there is a response. Between the two, there is space to choose. To choose. We're free to choose our attitude and choose our response before we just react to something. And he's saying this in the context of a Nazi concentration camp. where people, when he noticed people, it wasn't the majority of people by any means, the small amount of people who would squirrel together a little bit of food, save it for those who were really hungry. And they would always go around with positive comments and say things, and because even though they knew they probably were going to die, because they wanted to build up the spirits of people. And he said they were free to choose. You can never take away a human being's freedom to choose, no matter what the circumstances are. And Viktor Frankl survived, went on to be a psychiatrist and a neurologist, and he developed this thing called logotherapy, this psychology that means that our greatest motivating force of a human being is our search for meaning. What's meaning? What's valuable? What's in our lives? So mindfulness helps us to really stop and be aware, of our lives as they're happening right now. It's not about adding anything to our lives. It's just being aware of what's arising in our emotional world inside, in our thinking. Where are these thoughts taking us? So the first step is that awareness, because we tend to respond. It tends to be sort of a negative thing when we're responding without consciously being aware of how we're responding. So it's just for a moment stopping and breathing, and being present, because we have, notice your reactions when you walk out of here, when you're in the hallway, when you're walking your class. Notice what your mind is doing and how you're responding to something emotionally, what your feelings are. Suddenly all these kinds of judgments come up about a person in the particular class, people in the class, your teacher, people out in the hallway. Just notice. And don't be judgmental with yourself. The thing is, with mindfulness, you want to be aware, but you don't want to, our worst critic is our inner critic, is the judging person within us. We judge ourselves so harshly, and then we judge others. You stop, and you just become aware of how you're responding. And they're finding, again, that the neuron, pathways in our brain are changed by the way we think and the way we respond and our attitudes. And they're also noticing that when we tend to stop, breathe, become more aware of our lives and what's going on, a natural sense of compassion and empathy seems to rise up within us. This is so important. And just stopping for a moment and breathing, becoming aware what's happening. It's so interesting. I know in the Eastern world, they don't separate, in the languages, they don't separate heart and mind. But in the Western world, we have this dualism. Heart and mind are two different things. But mindfulness is also heartfulness. So if we're stopped and we're aware what we're saying. So you ever had that thing where you just say something and you go, oh God, I can't believe I said that. That really, it's so stupid. Because, we're on autopilot. That's the thing, we're on autopilot most of the time. Teachers are too, parents are. We walk into meetings, we walk into situations. We're not present. We're thinking about a million other things. We're not there in the moment. And so when you're not there, you're not really alive. So if my own children, if I'm talking to my son or my daughter and my mind's in 10 different places because we think we can multitask, which is a total lie, it doesn't work. They study this medically, you cannot do this, you cannot multitask and be really efficient. You can be aware of a lot of things going on, but you can't multitask. But if you're not there, you're not present with the one you love. So many divorces and broken relationships happen because one person's checked out. They're no longer there emotionally, they're no longer there cognitively, they're no longer there in body. So they're gone. But yeah, they might be sort of in the same house, but there's a distance. We're not present. And so when we're not present, things happen. And the scientists also are discovering with their research that the mind, when it goes into this default mode, we tend toward the negative. We tend toward the negative unless we're consciously, intentionally aware of what's happening in the brain, in the mind. Why do we tend toward negative? Because we start thinking, and then these concerns develop. You ever had this? And then certain anxieties, and then the worries, and then you're suddenly down this pathway, and you're down that road, and all these things just take over the mind. And you're consumed by it, and that has an effect on you, and it creates stress. In the first clinic that they started like this was at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, called the Stress Reduction Clinic, started by this guy, John Kabat-Zinn, who actually is a molecular biologist with a PhD from MIT. Of course, he studied meditation in the 60s, but he has that scientific degree. And so these stress reduction clinics have spread throughout the world, because we are all, anybody deal with a little stress every once in a while here? I mean, you got stress. Sometimes you got stress, your parents, the school. Things can, take over a little bit, and it's toxic. If it's too much stress, it's toxic. And we're finding the level of toxicity in our global society is increasing. We need a way to deal with it. And that's why so many people in science, research, and the medical profession are studying it. But it comes back to really being in touch with yourselves. And this can only help you. I'm not like adding something to your life, telling you to be something. This is something that can be integrated into your whole, it's a way of living. For instance, you walk in, you're going to go to the cab, there's a difference between thinking and sensing. Thinking mind's always going, calculating, planning. You have to do that, but it's always living in the past, regrets, things I should have done, wish I did that or didn't do that, or the future, I got to do this. So it's thinking mind's never usually there, but the sensing mind is aware. It's a sensing mind. You walk into when you do this for lunch, just feel your feet on the floor when you're waiting in line, the presence of your body, to be embodied, to be home. Don't be like, we always say, oh, he's really out there, man, he's checked out, or earth to so-and-so, or, these are phrases we use because somebody's really out, zoning out on autopilot. But the opposite is being embodied. So you walk in, feel your feet. I mean, this is good for athletics, for everything you do. Feel your feet, notice, use all the five senses. The smells around you, hearing, plates going, people washing dishes, friends talk, whatever the sounds, be observant. Experience what's going on around you. Life becomes much deeper and much richer, and changes everything. The ability to concentrate. I'm sorry that so many people across the country have ADD, and I know there are medical reasons for that, and there may be certain prescriptions you need for that, but on the other hand, there's no question that the research that's being done, the mindfulness and meditation is extremely helpful. And I always have the bell, so I'm going to do this morning a guided meditation. And I want you to just listen to the words and just listen to the sound of the bell. Let it take you into yourself. Notice the sounds around you at first. And I'm going to give you some words to contemplate. Are we ready? This wonderful sound brings us back, collects mind and heart, which are really not separated, but brings us back to one home. If you're just relaxing in your own way, you can gently close your eyes if you like, settle into a nice breathing pattern. Don't think about what you got to do after this and all the papers and things that some of you haven't turned in for me and all of that. Okay, so... Take a moment to feel your body. Feel your feet on the floor. Just acknowledge what you're feeling after this break and waking up early. And you feel achy? Do you feel strong? Do you feel tired? And feel your chest breathing, expanding with your breath. And the air that you take for granted that you breathe every day to live, feel it tingling through your nose. Find a place where you really feel the breath in your chest, in your nose, in your stomach, someplace in the body. Wherever that might be, just feel that. And settle into that breath. This may seem a little funny and goofy, but you just feel where you are. Feel where you are in time and space, in your mind and your body. And notice how your mind has wandered off, as all minds do. Become aware of this. Acknowledge where your mind went and bring it back gently to follow your breath. Let any of the sounds around us, moving, coughing, shifting in chairs, the sounds outside, the doors, let them become part of the meditation. Note how they come and go, how they're impermanent. And stay present with your breathing. Now let your awareness acknowledge any thoughts or emotions that come up for you. Maybe memories, concerns, thoughts, emotions. You don't have to fix them or solve the problems. You just simply sit with them. You're aware of them. Bring your awareness into the chest area. Soften your heart. Feel your heart, which pumps, works, beats thousands of times a day and throughout your life, and all the organs in your body that we take for granted sustain our lives. We have no idea how they work. It's all right to laugh a little bit. I know that. It's a little funny. Have some goodwill toward yourself. Just extend some compassion and kindness. Don't allow yourself to judge yourself so harshly. And extend that goodwill and that kindness toward the person next to you in your thoughts, toward the entire school, toward our world. Now bring your heart meditation back to yourself. Feel your breath and your life force in every bone and muscle and tissue of your body. Feel that you are calm and peaceful. Feel your feet, legs, your stomach, pelvis, your arms, your fingers, your shoulders, your neck, your ears, your head. Feel your presence. Listen once again to the sound of the bell, and just listen to the sound reverberating. Now this thing called mindfulness, I just want you to be aware of it, because when you go to college, whatever you're doing, if you're going into the science, if you're going into any profession, you're going to find out that particularly in a few more years, it's going to be everywhere. People will be talking about that. Just think about what mindfulness is. Maybe Google a space that says do nothing for 2 minutes. We're a society of doing. It's important. But sometimes we have to just be and be present before we respond, before we act, before we say the things we say or do the things we do. Think about what it is we're doing. Be in your body, be present, and don't judge yourself. Experience this as you're walking out, down the hallway into class this week, and at every moment in your lives. Remember, we can only live in the now. There's no history. Yesterday's gone. The future's not here. You plan for the future in the present. So, take care. See ya.